Hey there, Laura Donnelly from Dancing with Ease, Body Brain Balance. And I am here this evening with day 190 of Strange and Interesting Times. And this means that things are just going on and going on and going on with the close downs, with not knowing when things will open up in a way that we are used to being able to travel and see friends and family and have our kids go to school and do sports and compete in various things. And what about sleepovers? Anybody had a single sleepover since this started with friends or family? That was a big part of my growing up was sleepovers. They're thinking of canceling Halloween in the town I live in. Okay, well, I'm not real big on Halloween anyway. Candy, too much candy for kids is not good. I'm really not big into sugar. I keep my pets indoors on Halloween in case there are mean people doing tricks. So basically, Halloween, not my favorite day. But if I think of it as All Hallows Eve, and I think of November 1st as All Saints Day, and remembering the people in my family that have passed on, then I have a pretty good time with that. Ghosts and goblins and witches and costumes. So I also think I don't like costumes because half my life was spent dancing and I had to dress up in costumes. And so it was my job. And so dressing up in costumes for fun, that just doesn't really flip my switch, shall we say. But that's okay. Everybody can do what they like to do, and everybody can figure out how to negotiate this for themselves. But one of the things that I have noticed talking to my friends and my clients and the people I work with is that things that were easy are hard now. And things that were hard are harder. A lot of people I know work in healing areas and they work online, and this is a pretty good medium for that. But nothing, really nothing, replaces human touch, human contact. A few years ago, my cousin's family, where were they? They were down in South Central Kansas, and there was a terrible, terrible grass fire. We don't have forest fires here because we have when people don't keep the cedar trees out of their pastures, we do get these cedar forests, which burn really hot and really fast, and they shoot sparks in the air. Yeah, Audrey, you're right. See, human contact is so important. And the sparks go all over, and the wind blows here all the time. So when the trees explode and the sparks go up, they blow the sparks to the next pasture. And so this fire started in Oklahoma, and it just came sweeping up the plains, and almost, it burned down an outbuilding. My cousin's farm did not burn down her mother-in-law's house, didn't burn down her house, but she had to take her dog. She had 2 dogs and her cat, 1 or 2, pack them in the car, and they went and sat in a wheat field because the wheat was green and about 3 or 4 inches tall. And this was the spring after it had been dry all winter, and there was all the dead grass in the pasture. And the year before it had been really wet, so the grass was really tall for us where we live. And but the winter wheat is usually in a huge field, and it was about 3 inches tall, and it was all green and moist. And so she and a couple of her neighbors drove together to the middle of this wheat field because sitting there in the middle of the wheat field, the fire couldn't get to them. And the firefighters were all volunteer firefighters, and they put the fire out. It was right around Easter. And normally we meet at my cousin's house for family gatherings because she has a beautiful large space and enough tables and chairs and silverware and everything to hold the whole family, which is often over 30 people. So after the fire, we weren't sure she was going to do that, but then she just called everybody. She said, I need to do this because this is normal. And I said, great, we'll be there. And I took stuff down. I took supplies to help the volunteer firefighters because some places the fire was still going. And when we saw our family, we just hugged and hugged and hugged. Because I had talked to her on the phone. I knew she was okay. I knew her family was okay. I knew that they had suffered some pretty bad losses in their cattle, and that it was pretty awful and brutal to have to deal with some of the cattle that were burned but not dead. And they had been through a really horrific thing. And some part of me, when I saw them and I could see them in person and I could touch them in person, I knew they were okay. And, and I don't care how many times she told me, we're fine, we're fine. See, we say fine in Kansas, and it just means we're not fine, but we're going to plunge right ahead. That is something we do here. It's not a very good thing, but we all are taught it from an early age, and we do it just really, really good. We do it really good. But when I saw them and their extended family that live down there's a lot of people who have land and everything in that same area that are cousins and on the outside edge of my extended family. But I was so glad to see that they were okay. And I don't care. Zoom was not going to cut it for that. But I got friends in Europe that I haven't seen for years, and Zoom is great for that. So it's just it's an interface and dealing with the interface and how to deal with it. But because some things that used to be easy aren't easy anymore, and then the things that were hard before are really hard now, sometimes it feels like we wake up in the morning and, we're already right there first thing in the morning at that last nerve place, sometimes when you say to somebody, don't step on my last nerve, because I'm at the edge here. And you wake up at that edge. And at the same time, maybe your cat does something silly, falls off the bed, makes you laugh. And so you can be happy in that moment, when just the moment before you were standing right at the edge of your last nerve. And then maybe you're making breakfast and you find your favorite cup that I have a favorite cup that my 6th grade teacher gave me. I visited her one time and we went to the Celestial Seasonings factory. And she said, I'm going to get you something, pick a cup that you want. And I said, I don't really need a cup. It's the day was fine. Spending the day with you was great. She says, no, I always get a cup. And I remembered the person and the event and the day when I use my cup. So I think it's been like 10 years. And every time I use that cup, I'm happy that we did that and we spent that day together. And I'm happy to have the cup that I didn't think I wanted. Audrey says that waking up on the edge just hurts, and it does hurt, and it can be like that. And so we have all these emotions, and they swim through us all through the day. All through the day. Sometimes I'm having a perfectly fine day, and I just have like a wave of missing my mom, who passed away 5 years ago. And it's not the same waves that crashed over me when she died. It's not that. But it is a wave. And it is when a wave hits you, you have to do something, or it will knock you over. You either have to kind of let it break over you. When you're in the ocean, and the wave can come, you can press against it, and then it can kind of just like, or you can kind of turn sideways and slice through the wave, which is really fun feeling. Or you can turn around and you can ride the wave into the shore. So I was talking to a friend recently who also has a cat, and cats do make things better. And she's having some stuff at work, and she's stressed. And then her cat was sick. That was double stressing. And she just felt pretty down. And I was saying to her, in the mix of this, there are all these different waves. There's the wave about the frustration at work. There's the wave about the kitty that's sick. There's the wave about maybe impending shutdowns again. Then there's the wave that because things are the way they are, her boyfriend can come visit from another town when for about 4 or 5 months, he was locked down in his town and she was locked down in her town. So there's something to be grateful for. And then you can look outside and maybe the sun is shining. Another wave. And then maybe there's a tree, like for about 5 days in my yard, there was a bright red sumac bush. And every morning when the sun came up, it would come over the roof of my house and it would just shine a bright ray on that red tree. And I was like, yes, look at that. Well, all the leaves have fallen off now. So now I have, fall is here. I'm kind of sad. But then I remember how beautiful that was, and I'm kind of happy. So this idea of feelings, several feelings. Sometimes when I was young, I used to say I was happy and sad at the same time. And I still sometimes have that. I have this real joyous moment. And at the same time, I have this flash of realization that this moment is a single moment in time that will never come again. And so there's the sadness and the loss, right present with the happiness and the joy. I had that, that's one time a friend of mine she had a VW, it was in Italy, we lived in Italy, she had a Volkswagen convertible. And one sunny day, we went to the river that was nearby. And she put the top down and there were 3 of us and we took, it was like for a girl from Kansas, it was like being in a movie. We took a basket, we took wine, we took cheese, we took bread, really good bread. And I was these people that I loved and I was learning to speak Italian, and we went and played in the river, and it was shallow, like maybe a foot deep or something. And there were these most beautiful stones that they were beige, several colors of beige and brown and a slight rusty red. And in the water, they were exquisitely bright. And if you took them out and let them dry, they would just fade so that the colors were really, really faint. So I have 2 of those. And whenever I look at those, I remember that day. But while we're driving in the car on the way to the river, and the wind is blowing, and you should see my hair when the wind blows. I mean, it looks almost like this, but worse. And I just was like, I don't know, it was like a picture. And it was a sudden shift, and knowing that this would never happen again. And also knowing that it was special and magical and precious. So we can have multiple feelings at one time, and it doesn't mean that we are crazy. Or we can ping pong back through multiple feelings all throughout the day. And that doesn't mean we're crazy either. I have a theory that if you're sad, or if you're depressed, or if you're angry, and even if you're happy, but I have to see if anybody can do this with the happiness, that if you feel unhappy for an entire day, if you feel angry for an entire day, that there's something that when we do this, that we return ourselves to the sadness, to the anger, to the thing that made us unhappy. We bring our mind back to it, and then we bring that emotion forward into the present moment so that it feels like we are in this long, unhappy tunnel or this long, angry tunnel. I had an aunt, and probably if she was alive today, she might be diagnosed as manic depressive because she kind of went up and she kind of went down. And when she was up, she was the funniest person in the world to be around, and she was great. And she was superbly talented in many areas. Sculpture, jewelry making, sewing, costume design. I loved her a great deal and admired her and found her incredibly frustrating and difficult to deal with. And I probably still have reactive patterns that if somebody says something like she did when she was having a bad day, years later, 40 years later or so, I react as if it was her saying it. Okay? But she is a perfect example in my life of someone who could sustain anger for weeks. For weeks, she could do this. She could get onto something, some topic, some person, something that they had done to her, and she would just repeat it over and over and over to herself and to anyone who would listen. And it made her vastly unhappy, and everyone else who had to hear it. And she didn't know that she was creating this unhappiness right now in the present moment from something that had happened years before. Years. I mean, like in her life, probably 25 or more, 50, 40, 80, 70, 30, at least 30 years. So the important thing is to pay attention to what we're feeling and to, like swimming in water. I don't know if you remember this, like sometimes you'd swim through water and sometimes there would be a patch of warm water where the sun had warmed it up. Like I think this is more like in a lake than it is like in a swimming pool. And then you would go further and there would be cold. And this current had come up from the bottom and the water was cold. This is how our emotions are. They are moving and they are fluid and they will pass through us. We can grab onto them and we can hold them and we can keep them from moving. But if we pay attention to ourselves and the ease in our system, we can say, oh, this is a warm spot, a happy spot. Oh, this is a cold spot, a spot of loss and loneliness. Oh, this is a really hot spot. Might be a spot of anger or a spot of really high energy happiness. However it feels to you. But to recognize that these will just pass by us as if we were swimming through a lake with very different temperatures of water at different times. We can feel the change and we can pass through the change. We don't have to be the thing we went through. And we can go on to the next thing and see what it is. And maybe you hit a place where the waters are bubbly because for some reason they're bubbling. And then maybe they're really, really still and calm. And the same is true with our emotions. Sometimes they're bubbly and churny and kind of all over the place. And sometimes they're really calm and steady. And if we can let ourselves be aware of the movement of them, then we don't have to get stuck in them. And we don't have to get stuck to them. And we have many facets to our feelings that we can explore in a day, in a week, in a month, and through the whole COVID times. So I'm kind of tired of the COVID times, kind of frustrated with the COVID times. See, frustrated. But one of the good things about the COVID times is that I have gone live 190 days in a row, and it's pretty amazing for me. So we just have to keep paying attention. And the important thing is how we are doing, how we are treating ourselves. Are we treating ourselves with compassion and ease? Are we beating ourselves up? No judgment, just a choice. And the easier you are in your system, the more ease you will communicate with the people you love in your life. If you would like to know more about ease and that little thing I said, like when I said frustration and my voice was like, not good. I can go there. I can always go there. I know where it is really easy. And I can always come here where the ease is. When I come here where the ease is, I'm able to share that ease through the energy in my voice. If you would like to explore that, just send me a message and say, hey, I would like to know more about that ease in your voice and about what happens when I notice my voice isn't easy. What do I do? What do I do? Because we all have it, right? We can all, like the other day I was talking to my friend. It's a really good friend. And their messages aren't popping up to me on Facebook. And I goes, what's your Facebook? And they go, what happened to the ease in your voice? I said, Facebook. Facebook happened to the ease in my voice. Oh, I happened to the ease in my voice when I got mad at Facebook. But they could hear it right away. So we had a good laugh. So anyway, if that's interesting to you, send me a message. I'm going to be teaching a quick 3-series class starting soon, and I would love to tell you more about it. Until then, tomorrow will be day 191, and I am going to have some kind of party on day 200 because that is just too weird. So talk to you soon. See you tomorrow.